yeah, we're live. That looks right. Let's go. I don't remember how to do anything here. Bunk. I don't have any role for pinging people, so I can just hit the publish button, I guess. This message will be sent to all followers following this channel. Cool. Using features for the sake of using features. And you know what? I'm gonna put on my headset and we're gonna hop in a voice channel. Just in case anybody wants to chat. Nobody's gonna know I'm here. Alrighty. I am just gonna start. Actually, now that I've got my headset on, one quick thing. How's my volume? Let's see. I could probably do to be a little bit louder. If I look at the mic, I'm almost certain it's going to start clipping if I'm not careful. So we're going to go right here. Okay. Yeah, looking at the mic definitely fixed that. So now we're good. Pull up my chat. Won't be on the stream because I didn't bother to set that up, but that's fine. So we are starting basically at square zero with a little bit of setup. I started last night preparing for this so that I wouldn't be just going in completely with nothing to do. Ported over some code into kind of a reusable set of libraries here for dynamic arrays, memory allocators, and I shelled out a string implementation that we'll flesh out eventually. But we're going to start building the compiler from here again. For various reasons, I think this is the correct solution for me moving forward. I might bring back, hold on, it's in Lion Graveyard, because of course it is. This is the one that we worked on in the original series. And I might continue using this. This is a thing to figure out. Problem number one is I kind of went a little bit whack on refactoring it into these really small files here, which is not terrible. So the start of the episode, basically, we're going to figure out whether or not this or this is the correct direction to move forward with. Did I implement file checking? Who knows? Hello C might have the file checker. It does not. Preprocessor test does not have a file checker. None of these have the file checker implemented, so I don't know if that works because we don't have any output. That's great. Okay, so where we left off with this graveyarded version that we might revive is we were in the middle of parsing C. You guys didn't get to see a lot of me parsing C, but I started parsing C off camera and then I let the series die. So if we went to CC, I guess, we have a C lexer and the start of a C parser in here. This can parse, I believe, hello.c plus standard IO, our custom standard IO implementation, which is in here. This one. So it could start parsing declarations like this. I believe this whole file... Oh, is it that loud? Okay. Yes, it is. Let me... How loud is it? When it ramps up, I can hear it as well. I don't know how to fix that in software. The laptop never really gets hot. The fan just decides to throttle, which is weird. So if that becomes a pain, we can figure that out I don't know if I'll be able to do that right now. Because I would love it if it would just stop throttling. The PC, the laptop, barely warm at all. I also don't know what my microphone configuration is, so maybe if I had it in a different configuration, like what's the difference between cardioid and whatever, Omni. I don't have the software for it, so let me try to look at the... If I set it to this, how does the mic sound? Does this change the quality of the mic? That makes it really bad. Is it really bad because I'm not looking directly at it? Where is... It still sounds bad. I'm pretty sure you can still hear the fan. I'll pick up the mic a little bit farther from the computer, but until I figure out what to do about that, then I guess don't know what to do about that. So we have this version that is parsing C, and we were eventually going to have it parse Laie. Alternatively, I start from scratch, but then I have to rewrite the C parser, or copy over that part of the C parser, which doesn't sound like fun. So these are my two options, basically. I've gone ahead and made this the new repository for the time being. So if we look over here, this is what we've got. The old repository is on my file system, probably exists somewhere online, but we're going to figure out here if we want to continue, basically. So most of the... There's a lot going on here. Now it's really loud, isn't it? It just picked the fuck up for no reason. Hello, hello. Hey, you've got my name in you. Okay, so Laie has a little bit. I think part of what might be becoming a problem is... Okay, hold on. That didn't sound right. That didn't make sense. We've got an allocator, we've got a string view. Well, it worked for me, it can work for you as well. We've got vector, we've got string, we've got context. Yeah, so I think aside from the actual C parser, there's not much here I care about. And I can worry about porting over the existing preprocessor. The parser wasn't that big a deal. It's the C preprocessor that's kind of annoying. So if we want to get around to parsing C again in the future, I think I'll do that in one big fell swoop, hopefully eventually. But we're going to start with the Laie side this time. In the previous one, I was like, oh man, we're going to try to self-host a C compiler ASAP, which just does not feel like the correct course of action, if I'm honest. So, also let me know if the text is too small. I'll make it a little bigger for right now. So we got that fan, otherwise mic quality, text size, things to change for the next stream. Also check if anybody is talking in here. They are not. Good. So I think we're going to stick with this one. And we will start with... I mean, Lenz was pretty public about... Like, he posted the kick message that he decided was worth kicking Saraid, so... Yes, as much as anybody else does. No, not dead, just busy with life and not wanting to... Like, I did some programming off stream, and then I was like, I don't know how to reintroduce this to the, reintroduce it to the programming series. And then I moved over to working on a different compiler. And then I was like, I don't enjoy working on this compiler as much. So now I just kind of want to go back to C and my own compiler for fun. So hopefully this will keep up. I've considered this a reboot, but it is what it is. So let's just start here. I've scaffolded out a new project for the time being. It is not fully tested. Thanks. Glad to be back. It helps focus sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But what we're going to have to do is write some tests here for my allocator. I kind of blindly refactored an existing Arena allocator implementation that might break. But I've got a scaffold here to create a compiler context to store all of our stuff in and, destroy it. And if I do come over here, we're using Soding's new no build knob to build stuff out Liacy. So it's just going to print the version here, create something with an allocator, and destroy it. So hypothetically, the allocator is working, but we're not really putting it under stress. So what we're going to want to do here is probably just force the first argument to be a file and start trying to get tokens out of a file. That's what I named the stream after all. We're getting tokens. So let's make a test directory and rebuild a nice old fancy, everybody's done it before, Lexer for Laie first. So we'll just do tokens by Laie. Cool. I know there will be a lot of tokens. So let's start with, actually, I have a VS Code thing we could base it off on. I have two different versions of a compiler we could base our tokens off of. I'm going to change the tokens slightly from some previous versions of the compiler. After having an almost working compiler and playing around with the language a bit, there are some changes I want to make before we get too far in. So we'll be putting some thought into consistent syntax of the language here. And what else do I want to do? LCC still exists. So this is the other compiler I was working on. We're just going to go straight to Lexer, no, ASTH for Laie, and we're going to steal some of our tokens and syntax nodes. I think we'll get... We might even start on the AST before going too deep into actually lexing, but I don't know. Because the token itself is going to be pretty simple. I think we can just get tokens out of the way. Doop-a-doop-doop. I should probably put you on Do Not Disturb. Should also probably have water on me because I don't talk a lot and it will hurt my throat. Okay, so I'll move this off to the side. I'll just start reading through those. Let's see here for reference if I need it. Let's start with just make our way down the keyboard basically. Any of these we don't want, we will remove. I don't think I ever had a use for @ or #, whatever. And that is probably fine. $, same thing, not really a use for. Bang is for types, caret we're not using. And is for types, that's a reference type, pointer type, the modulo operator, bitwise complement, error type for now, obvious delimiters are obvious, pipe. Anything else up here? We need this, underscore doesn't really do anything, equals plus, done, colon is a thing, colon is a thing, semicolon is a thing, that's not a semicolon, that's a semicolon, comma, dot, and slash are all things, less, greater, and stuff are all things. So let's do compound on a second line. So we have a compound here, we have like less equal, we have greater equal, we have left shift, we have right shift, we have comments eventually. We can put a comment here. We can even do it on this line so that we can parse line comments. What other compound tokens do we want? Double equals. Bang equal does exist. I'll probably end up with things like plus equal eventually, so minus equal. Hold on, I need a new terminal because I don't want to force reload something. Okay. Minus equal. Alright, we got plus equal, we can do less, we already did less equal, minus times equals, div equals. all the usual. I want to get all of them implemented eventually, so we're just going to put them all into a file. div equals, and equals, whatever. Pipe equals, do we have pipe? We did have pipe. Pipe equals, amp equals, plus minus star, left shift equals, right shift equals, not equals, plus equals. All of these out of the way. We've done colon, colon, comma, dot. Dot, dot, dot isn't a token, so we'll put a comment here. I don't know, make the line relatively the same length. And open brace and colon, colon with dot slash question. We don't have a question mark. Question mark is for nullable types. Let's see. Less, less, greater, greater, equal, bang, equal, plus, equal, minus, slash, star, percent, s, greater, greater, pipe, equal, tilde, equal. Because we're using tilde for XOR, so tilde, equal. Less, less, equal, greater, greater, equal, colon, colon, equal, greater. Right? We want an arrow for expression bodies and lambdas. So then we're on to keywords. We've got a lot of keywords, and we've also got identifiers and integer literals. In the past, I've made sure that we can parse identifiers that start with a number. I think I want to keep that up. There have been a couple of not ambiguities, but like unintuitive things coming from other languages. Let's go ahead and say things like main and parse node. You know, just like, hey, we've got underscores. We've got something that starts, let's say 3D object, right? Starts with a 3, ends with a. Those are going to be keywords. They're going to be and or, as well as XOR, just for shits and giggles. Any other funky identifiers? Probably not. So for literal integers, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Random numbers, 2, 4, 6, 0, 1, one of my favorite numbers. So there's some integer literals. We might not parse floats for a little bit. And actually, did I decide on underscore? I did. So cool. We can do underscore for this. I'm going to not do, well, you know, fuck it. We're going to stick with my fancy syntax for literals like this. So we'll try to parse a hex literal. We shall, what's next? So float, 1, 2, 3 is a float. Ooh, I never bothered to parse negative, so let me do negative 69. That's an integer literal. Let me do 1, 2, 3, negative 0.5, and that's that. I'll even put these on a new line here. So then we want a string literal, Hawaii. And we want another string literal that's going to have like new lines and other escapes in it. And we're not going to test maybe every escape. Maybe we are, because we want RNT V for vertical tab. What other escapes are there? I'll leave it at those 4 for now. They're the most important 4 probably. Eventually, like numbers, right? Escaping the escape character for sure. So escaping this and escaping that. That doesn't really matter in this one. So I'll move this somewhere over here where it's a touch easier to see. I'll say R, N, doesn't really matter, T, and V, and doesn't really matter. So that gets me string literals. Character literals, I usually want to support character literals. I've never really ended up using them until the end of the compiler, so we're just gonna throw in a handful of characters here to remember that characters exist. New line is a character, A, Z, I don't know, dollar sign. We'll give Laie a dollar sign too. Just make sure that we're parsing everything correctly. Then. And or an XOR, so we can do that. Let's do some types here. Bool, B32, 7 technically works. I don't know that we're going to support that moving forward. I guess for integer types, which a bool is under the hood, arbitrary still is fine. So we'll support doing B7. So then we have int, which could be int or uint or i32 or, i27, u. We did uint, so let's do u, I don't know, 19, big number. Then we have floats. Floats can't be arbitrary, so like F12 and 23 shouldn't work. 23 does not work. That is a identifier, so I'll actually throw that in here as an identifier test. F23 should not work, but F32, F64, and F16 should. Maybe F128? Notice I've already got syntax highlighting for this. I've worked on this language before, and we're just kind of migrating where everything lives. Do feel free to ask any questions you want. I'm more than happy to discuss what's going on with the language. So let's do literal values. We have true, false, nil. Global isn't a literal, but it's like a qualifier, right? Global namespace. We have control flow and operator keywords. We'll do control flow after here. So if, else, for, do, switch. Case default, return, break, continue, defer, go to Zizzy. Believe it or not, we're adding a Zizzy keyword because I'm quirky. Haha. I thought it'd be funny, and I'm going to stick to it until it's not. Struct variant enum is test import export from as operator mute. Those are all good. Let's see. So then I want new delete cast try catch. Try catch is not going to be like exceptions. It's going to be more like zig. So don't look at this and be like, oh my god, dude, exception handling bullshit, object oriented. I don't know. We're not doing that. It's if we keep it, it's going to be like zig's fancy syntax for error handling. Any paradigms you're going for, I guess simple and procedural. It's very much C with a handful of additional features on top because I really like C. So it's procedural. I'm working to make representing data a bit more easy, not necessarily going for like object-oriented. You've got a lot of properties and methods and shit. Just make data a little bit more easy to represent and transform. Make errors or data, shit like that. C interop is a primary feature of the language, not just interop, but eventually I want this to be a compiler. Hey Sid. So yeah, procedural. I'm not going to say data oriented because I don't know the extent of that term, but we're going to make sure that it's really easy to interact with and transform data and describe data beyond what something like C would give you without delving super deep into object-oriented or functional nonsense. There will be first-class functions, ideally closures eventually, depending on how the memory model goes. I don't have everything ironed out, but I have a high-level idea where we're going. Is it really... Like, I listened to it a second ago. I know it's loud, but I don't know why it keeps throttling. The only thing we're doing is streaming and editing text, and it just kind of does this. It'll come on for a few seconds, it'll go off. It'll come on, and I don't know what to do about it. So I just kind of moved the mic a little farther away and hoped for the best. And like I said earlier, the laptop's not hot. The fan doesn't need to be running right now. It just is, and it throttles for no reason when something happens. I think it's tied, if we go to the system monitor, it might just be tied to CPU load. If there's a small spike somewhere, it preempts and turns the fan on or something, but I don't know, and I don't know how to stop it. So I'll definitely look into it more before the next stream. I don't know if I'm going to bother with it on this one because I just want to write code. Yo, hi Gmas. So we left off with try catch. We have discard. Discard I might get rid of. Implicit discard is just so easy. The rationale for maybe having discard is that no discard would be the default, and you would get a warning and or error for discarding a value without using the discard keyword. But I don't know if that's worth a whole keyword, and so I don't know. We'll leave it here for now, but it's on my radar for things that might have to go. Size of, align of, offset of are all going to be keywords. Not and or XOR. Var args is a keyword for two different things. Oh, it got really loud there. Const is for actual constants. Yeah, a lot of what I want to do, it turns out Zig is already done similar, so you might see a lot of Zig parallels. There are one or two things I've stolen directly from Zig, but a lot of these things have been like, we've come across them in parallel, and every time I learn about Zig, I'm like, fuck, they've already done it. Oops, I'm not copying Zig, I swear. It just happens to be very similar. I'll start with var args. We'll move var args to another line. Var args const foreign inline call convention. I've not liked typing the call convention keyword in practice. It does nothing. It's a no-op. I put it in there as a joke, and I kind of want to keep it. It's from... Hold on, do I have adventure built? Let me... cd dev adventure open adventure. Do I have it built? Cool. No. I don't remember how to get there. I think it's just south, but let me enter the building first. Doesn't really matter, so I'll take... I think I only need the keys, and then I can leave and like go south. That's not how you say south. South, valley, downstream, the gate is locked. Unlock the grate, enter the grate. So then I want to go, I think, west? Yeah, west. Take the cage, because I don't remember the... If I go west one more time? No. Where is the magic word? Did I miss the magic word? Dim light. Oh, I didn't take a torch. That might help. Can I say it here anyway? Nothing happens. But this is what we're going for. Zizzy being a no-op. It does something. Sometimes, but not in light. It's just going to be a no-op. Anyway, it's from an old adventure game. If you've never seen Pretend You're Zizzy... Right, that's the Cards Against Humanity app. It's a computer science meme, basically. I don't know why it doesn't want to load. Anyway, it's an old thing, old text adventure thing that people have adopted as a funny. I added it as a joke, and I kind of like it as a no-op. Because occasionally when I'm debugging a language with a graphical debugger, I'll want to set a breakpoint on, like, maybe I've got an if something, and I just want to see if something got hit, and it's not like a trivial calculation, and I'm too lazy to be like, okay, make it a variable, right, whatever, something is whatever. So maybe I just want to hit this semicolon without refactoring the code, but I don't have any code there yet. Well, like, sometimes debuggers let you do that, sometimes they don't, so I figured if I just make it a nice explicit, hey, I can put a breakpoint on a keyword because it's an operator, it's a statement, I mean an empty statement, I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be useful. Probably not, but nobody's going to type Zizzy for any other reason, so fuck it, Easter egg. Call convention we're going to keep for now. I left impure in there, and I left no discard in there. All right, no discard. Oh no, I removed it from here. Impure I think I removed as well. Okay. So, well, maybe not. Hold on. No discard and impure. Okay, yeah. So, call conv could have like a C decal in it or something. So we'll leave that in there. Other types, we have void var, no return is a type semantically. Raw pointer, we might remove raw pointer, so actually let me come over to here. Raw pointer, I'm just going to remove it right now and say that that's what we're doing. Then we don't want any of these for now because they're going to end up being type things. Error is no longer necessary, I don't think. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to handle error types, but I'm going to remove it from the syntax highlighting. I think we said that discard and no discard might go away. One of the two should stay, but I don't know which one. Currently we have discard, but I think what we really want is no discard as a function modifier. So up here, calling convention, no discard, and then we can remove the discard keyword. I think that makes more sense. So no discard. We'll have to reinstall this later. Then as operator me, cool. False, true, global, bool. All of these things. Star percent bang. Tilde invalid EOF. Okay, I think these are all the token kinds I care about starting with. So we can see how many of these we can get through today without breaking everything. I'll move it over here for reference. We're going to go into LIAC here. LIA stuff is just probably going to start here. We can define LIA token kinds of X to be a thing. So let's just start here. I'm going to copy all this nonsense from my other compiler, and we're going to keep only what we decided to keep on the right. So that means no discard gets to live, raw pointer gets to die, discard gets to die, Zizzy lives, defer, continue, break, go to, switch to, else, float size is one of those. I think everything else was fine. I think this is a mostly correct list, so we're going to do X of this and uppercase. So, okay, and then I just need to put slashes at the end of almost everything, so, and if I format, oh, because I forgot the one here. Format, that should give me something slightly prettier. Cool. True doesn't matter that it's a keyword here because it'll get transformed when we actually use it. So let's start with LIA token kind. The obvious starting place is just define. See, so something that I usually do, something I usually do is I make these be equal to their, what am I thinking of? Their character value. So I might take out invalid and all of the single character ones. So tilde, bang, percent, ampersand, star, open, close, minus, equals, plus, bracket, bracket, brace, brace, pipe, semicolon, colon, comma, less, greater, dot, slash, question. Because then I can say invalid is always 0. EOF can exist somewhere else. Define X of n, we'll call it as LIA token underscore n with a comma. Undef X and grab LIA token kinds, right, of X. Then any of these that we care about here, I'm going to copy them back out just manually here and do uppercase equals, and it'll be their respective value. So tilde, bang, percent, ampersand. Muscle memory is just bad on things if they aren't in context. Open, close, minus, equals, plus, I said plus, open, close, open, close, pipe, semicolon, colon, comma, stupid fan still going, greater dot, slash, and question. So this way we won't get warnings, and I don't have to like disable warnings for out of range enums. So EOF should be the first. And what I'm going to do here then is say multi-byte start is 256, because I like it just being guaranteed after the ASCII table. So I'll call it this, like that. And then we can go ahead and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't like moving my mouse, I guess. The Laia API here, so we can do a... We've got the startings of a string library here. That's the wrong library, this library. So we could just return a string, or string view in this case, to a constant string, or I could just return a constant string. I want to get this to string. So if I started with const.char Laia token kind to string, this would be like to C string, right? Laia token kind. I could do both, or I could do one. I'd probably call it toString, but then get a string view back. I think that makes sense. But like, do I need both or neither? I think in most cases, I'll be wanting to print the token kind, and it's just slightly easier to print it as a C string than to format. Why are you not happy? Are you broken? Expected of something. There's nothing there to expect it of something. Did I break something up here? I don't know yet. So I think we're just going to do this and then wrap it if we need to and call it good. So that gives us token kind. All of our token kinds are up here to do with as we please. Something else that we'll probably do is... No, this is fine. This is fine. So this gives us a token kind. We only have a handful of things we need to do to get a token that makes sense. One of them is the kind. We'll need location information, which we don't have just yet. I will probably embed a string view so we don't have to do lookups all the time when we want to print the source text of a token. But I say that, but a token is not going to be long-lived. A token is only going to exist for as long as the parser needs it and its data is going to be extracted, so we really don't need it in a token. So we'll just have to live with a function to extract source text from a location information. So that'll be the thing. We will copy out string contents for things that have string value. So this would be identifiers, string literals, probably just that. We'll want eventually a big int library, but for right now we're going to do an int 64t for int value, and we'll do didn't want to do that, just a fucking double for a float value. So we have a kind, any value associated with it. For our arbitrary precision types, we'll be using the integer value. So I think that's all we need in a token at the moment, aside from the location information. So let's come all the way the fuck back up here to the not Laia specific stuff and say type def struct Laia C location. We're going to call it a location. It's probably more apt as like a span, but that reminds me of a data structure for containing elements and not just spanning start to finish. I could call it region, but that sounds like memory. So location is the best we can. We want the location to have an offset and a length, and it will have to be associated with the file. So I think what we're going to do is just type def a file ID. that will be an index into a table, basically. And that table will just be a dynamic array. And that dynamic array will need file information. So let's say type def struct YAC source file. So instead of calling it a file ID, let's call it a source ID. Because it doesn't have to be a file. It could be raw text. It could be a lot of things. You can barely hear me. What the fuck? Let me check OBS. Is it like cutting out to silence, or am I just going quiet? Am I being drowned out by the fan? I can't hear myself, so I don't know what's going on. If I look in this direction, this is towards the microphone. Is this louder than if I turn my head to the left and look towards the screen? Does this make it quieter? Is it louder again? I don't understand the mechanics of my microphone as well as I should. Maybe if I pointed in a different direction. Maybe it's fucking backwards entirely.
Let me do fucking this. Does this make it louder? Okay, I'm gonna mess with my mic off stream then and try to get this working. I want to rotate it, but the way that it is plugged in right now, I can't, because the cable will cause problems. I don't want to break it. I don't like this mic, I want to replace it anyway. Let me tighten it up, slightly rotate it. Does this still sound fine? Is the thing louder? It was bad, but literally as we wanted. Okay. Maybe it's just my encoding going nuts? Oh no, that's fucked up. What's going on there?
I think I jostled the cable and it just went fucking nuts. So, okay, what about this? It shouldn't be broken anymore. It looks fine. We're peaking right around where I want to peak, maybe a little low. Cool. I plugged it back in. It's not dying. I've rotated it as much as I am able to. Hopefully it picks me up better. I'll do some experimentation off stream. Anyway, we have a source file. This source file doesn't need source files. God damn it, my thing is broken again. Underscore. Cool. Source files. So a source file needs a string name and a string text. We'll call it text so that we don't have source.source.source all over the fucking place or whatnot. So our source ID doesn't need to be associated with the file because it's only for lookup purposes. So this is probably all we need. And by name, this will be like path. depending, whatever's going on. So we will now need to allow the context to create files. So let's say source ID, the context needs to get or add file. Did I call it source file? Consistency here. MySC source file. Okay, so this, of course, is going to take a context. It needs a... Okay, so here's API questions, basically. I'm going to call this not a source file. I'm just going to call it source because, one, that makes it easier. Two, now I can say from file, which will be string file path. And then the file path turns into the file name. And that's how we look this up. So then I can just say source ID YSE context add source from text. And this one is going to just not give a shit if the file has already been loaded from disk or not, or if there's already a matching name. It's just going to add it regardless, I think. We'll document that if we stick with it. So get or add. If the file has already been loaded from disk based on this file path, return the existing file. Otherwise, create a new one. From source text, we have no idea what the fuck to do about matching that, unless we make the name unique. So I could say get or add from text, and then it would look for something with this name, but then I can't use temporary names like buffer interchangeably if ever I needed to, which I might not need to, but just in case. We're not going to be adding from text very often, if at all, so maybe I don't even add it, and we just say get or add from source file. For now, I think that makes sense. So this then means every module in Laie, so far, the way I've done the semantics, and it feels like it works out, every module is associated with a source file. So every module now needs a source ID. Context, source ID, a memory arena associated with it. So let's go to module and take in a source ID module. Source ID is source ID. Cool, we've created the thing. So now let's page down. That's the key I'm looking for. My brain, I've been trying to get used to Vim motions in NeoVim, but I haven't installed them into VS Code. So now I'm getting a little stuck between old and new key bindings, which is weird. I can't Control D to go down a page, or half a page, or whatever it is. So in a module, we want something. We also want a LIAC source, which we will copy. LIAC context get source, which is just going to be context. That's just spelled wrong. And the source ID. Source ID, this is how we're going to look stuff up. So then we can do module get source, which will just do the lookup through here. So YSC module get source. So let's context C and module this one is just going to call ISC context get source from module context module source ID. I also want to throw in some asserts, which don't exist here. Include assert. Because we want to not have memory issues. Catch them early if possible. If it's corrupted memory that doesn't hit the asserts, then we're fucked anyway, so yoops. But for things we don't want to ever happen, We also probably want to assert source ID greater equals 0. Then that's fine. Assert module arena. Okay. I mean, ideally the allocator never fails, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll assert module and context. I'm kind of all over the fucking place with asserts. We'll go ahead and just say source ID greater equals 0 here as well. Then in context, we're just going to assert false for now, because we have to implement that eventually. False is a standard bool thing, which I'm just going to include with standard int bool. For now, that's it. So in here, context get source. We're just going to assert context, assert source ID is greater than or equal to 0, and source ID is less than rlen rcount, I think I called it, yep, of context source files, right? Oh yeah. None of those are there anymore. What the heck? There we go. Return context source files, which needs to be renamed source ID. I'm just going to call it sources of source ID. So then up here, sources. rcount is called sources. Okay, so that gets us a source file. Now, static const char, we're not going to make it const char, we're going to make it string, read file to string, and this is going to be a string file path, and we'll just write a nice little utility to read from a file when we get there. So, let's say source ID is 0 for now. And you know what? For source ID equals 0, source ID is less than our count, context sources, source ID plus plus, and fuck it, I will put it outside here so that we can return it later, because we're just going to assign source ID equal to rcount context sources, and then we'll push context sources with our new source whenever we make that, which will be lse source here, which needs .name is file path, and .text will be read file to string file path, but string text is this. We might want to introduce some error handling to reading this, which is not currently reflected by the function signature, so I'm just going to separate it for now to make it a little easier in the long run. If context sources subsource ID dot name, we don't have double equals because we're in C, so we want to introduce string equals this file path, then return source ID, right? So now let's go into LCA string. We want two things. We want bool, which requires standard bool. We want lse, no, we want LCA str. So LCA string equals string A string B. So this is a string file name and a string name. So both of those are fine. And then we're just going to short names define string equals AB as LCA string equals AB, treating it like a library still. Then we need to implement string equals somewhere. We're going to implement it right here. In LCA string equals, if a dot count does not equal to b dot count, return false immediately. For in 64t, I equals 0, I is less than a count, I plus plus. If a data sub I does not equal to b data sub I, return false. If we hit the end, then they are equal. Boom. String equals. And we're going to do a nice old-fashioned put some space around it. Okay. So now we can see that it's there, which leads us there. This is the screenshot button, not what I want. Anyway, cool. This just means now we have to implement reading a file from the from. So fucking include standard io.h. We're just going to use the C standard library for this. Let's also, while I'm here, assert context. Okay. So we want to turn this file path into a C string we can use. Something I want strings in this library to do whenever possible is remain null terminated. Since an LCA string is owning, that should be possible. I think anytime we create a string, it should be invariant. Should always be null terminated. We're going to try to make that happen. So we're just going to say const char file path cster is file path data, which might need to be wrapped in an asserting function. So let's say as C string, and then I can just say S. So then I can do short define. This is going to get reformatted slightly, but that's fine. String as C string, S, LCA string as C string, S, and then we can define it down the hill here, which should assert something. Here's the problem. We have no idea if there is in fact a null terminator at all. So I don't actually think an assert is a good idea, because count will never say that there's, I guess capacity will though. Okay, hold on, this is fine, because we're going to check capacity. So we want to say, look, assert that s.count is less than s.capacity. If ever they're the same, then it's not null terminated. So that means one invariant has failed. And this isn't a bool, it's a const char. And it can be a char. That's fine, it doesn't have to be a const char. So char as C string, do the thing. Assert this. That means we can always go to count. I guess it could be equal to capacity, but no, because we want to go to count. If it's 5 long and count is 5, then we're at capacity, we can't do 6. So it has to be less than capacity. So then we want to assert s.data sub s.count is equal to 0. Right? There's our invariant that the end must be null terminated, which means that we must have at least one more count, or at least one more capacity than count. Because we're not counting the null terminator in the count. Okay. Okie dokie. So that means up here, when I have string view constant, I could, no, it's an owning string, so I'd have to write a function to turn a string into a string. Okay, this is fine. LC string as C string. Assure that it is null terminated. So instead of this, string as C string will give us all the necessary asserts to make sure that it is null terminated. So then file stream is fopen file path cster with read permissions. We then eventually want to close the stream. We don't have defer in C, so we'll just start here and add code between it. Ooh. We want to fseek the stream to seek end 0 to the end. Long pos is ftell stream fseek stream seek set 0. So this ftell returns a long, right? It just returns a regular long. Long pos is ftell stream. Cool. We're going to convert this into an int64 for our own purposes, because that's what's going to go into a string. And it may be, we'll just call it length count. We're going to call it count. So let's get ready to return string of .data equals data. We'll make a data in a second. .capacity is count plus 1, and .count is count. Right? Give it the null terminator by default. So we've seeked to the beginning. We want car pointer data equal to LCA allocate. We need an allocator. LCA allocate or allocator. Throw an allocator with count plus 1 as our minimum. So read context allocator, which should probably, honestly, conventionally be the first parameter, just for consistency. That makes the most sense to me. So we know what can allocate memory. So then we have LCA allocate here. Then we can fread into data, the size being count, which is size t count. N is 1 from our stream. Then we can say data sub count is 0 to make sure it's null terminated. And then we probably want to turn this into a function as well to do our validation. But then we want to fclose and return the data. That should give us a file. So let's create something here called string LCA string from data, car data. I also just realized that if my string is to be like a string builder, it needs an allocator. So let's give it an allocator, I guess. Oh, but this is, oh fuck. I'm trying not to rely on the fact that an allocator file exists in this file. Maybe that's not useful. So, maybe I say string relies on the allocator. Include LCA mem.h. Alright, so then this LCA allocate or allocator. Hello. Goodbye. I didn't have my sounds on, so but I mean, somebody joined and then left, and I didn't get to see who it was. Yeah, I am gonna try to be in my Discord, by the way, just chilling in voice. If anybody wants to talk, I can turn on my desktop audio so people can hear you. But yeah. So, allocator. We want to create strings with an allocator. We're probably not going to get to tokenizing in this string. There's a lot of setup. Tokenizing in this stream? Did I say stream or string? We might not get to tokens just yet. So string from data needs an LCA allocator, the allocator that we used. The data, the int64 count, and int64 capacity, which is all 4 things we need. So then we can do a define string from data, allocator data, I'll call it length capacity here, it's fine, ADL. See, So then here, we're only doing this so that we have invariants and asserts. So here is the thing. Another thing we should do here is, if we are specifying we created something from data, I think we want data to not be null. Which then means that we want capacity to not be 0. And then we'll throw in all of the same checks from here, that our count should still be less than capacity, and that data subcount should be 0. Then we can return the string with the allocator. We have no way of knowing if you're passing the correct allocator. We just kind of gotta trust that you are. So we're using whatever this allocator is. Let's say string from data, allocator, data, count plus 1. Right? So now we've got a string. We can turn it back into a C string. We can check if their ranges are equal. Okay. So let's also throw in a string, LCA string create. Create is going to create an empty string that we can start using with just an allocator. So we're going to define string create of an allocator as LCA string create with an allocator. I'm going to copy LCA string create, and we're going to do something. The something we're going to do is we are going to say data is car pointer data equals LCA allocate allocator. We want size of car times, we'll just give it a default capacity. So if we say int 64t capacity, we'll give it 16, 32 characters by default. Should be more than plenty as our starting size. Just get right there. Capacity, which needs to be a size t for malloc. Assert data. Then our count. LCA allocate guarantees that memory is zeroed, so we don't have to zero in it on our own. Assert that data exists. Identifier data is undefined. Well, it's right fucking there. Count is 0. This is capacity. Like that. And now we just wait for the language server to catch up. But that should be good. That should be good. So now we can create strings. We can do whatever we want. There. So we can look up. We can read a file. We're not handling errors right now, but we may in the future. Honestly, if it just fucking crashes, that's fine for now. Array push source. Okay, so let's try to just say, okay, within our context here, let's, hi Lolly Hunter, interesting. How you doing? Source ID is going to be lyc, we need lyc context getter add source file, from rather. From this context, we need a file path as a string. I think here is an API thing I'm thinking about. It might want to take in a string view and then copy it to a new string to be maybe easier. I don't know. Putting that in the back of my mind. For now, though, we want a... Because the difference here being a string requires an allocator. So if I want to pass in a string, I have to be like string file path equals LCA string create like from constant or something, then give it context allocator, then give it a string, so we could say test dot tokens dot lie. Right, so then I'd have to go do that. So, because being able to just create a string view and then say create from data internally simplifies our API for these cases. So let's go back to here. This is going to take in a string view. We might have to, no, that's fine. String view file path, just like that. So then I would want a string view equals as well. We're going to go copy string equals, make a string view equals, view equals, string view equals is going to be exactly the same thing. But now we want to have a string view LCA string to as view string s, which we can very easily implement by just returning string view, which problem, this needs to be LCA because we don't have the type def yet. Okay, then down here, everywhere that we use it, we also can't rely on the type def. So that's step one, gotta fix all this nonsense. String like that. So let's return a string view of data is sData, count is sCount, and now we have a string view, and now we have string view equals. So this turns into string view equals, this turns into, I'm gonna just call it SV as a macro as well, so we don't have to type the entire thing all the time. So then what that means is define SV of s as LCA string as view, capital S. We already have put this define string view equals AB, LCA string view equals AB. We also have define string as view s of LCA string as view for s, and we're defining SV of s as this of s for short names. So SV of whatever file path here. So then here we want to turn this into a string. So LCA string view to string. LCA string view s, which is going to require an allocator. All of this setup. So define string view of as, that's a comment, as. Then we can yoink this way the hell down here. And card data will be LCA allocate from allocator, and that needs to be s dot count plus 1 at the minimum. We need to assert data. Then we want to mem copy, which we do have included, into data from sData count, which is a size t, and then we can return LCA string from data. So that will be allocator we used, the data, the count, and the count plus 1 is the capacity, right? So then this becomes string to string, string view to string, file path. Now we have an owned string So we want a string file path owned is this, which now means it's null terminated, which now means we can save it in the source. So then this needs context allocator to do that. Okay. Bum ba da bum. Bum ba 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 bum ba bum. So now we just need our string view here. So we're going to copy a few of these down here as well. If I do define this, and these are called LISE, but they should be called LCA. Right, so then this is an LCA string view, LCA string view, and then stir expand works. So then here, string empty, LCA stir expand is fine. Constant of C needs this, and stir expand S needs this. Okay. So then we can say SV constant of test hello LIE. So then I could say LISE source is LISE context get source, context source ID, and then I can fprintf standard error, include a new line, but we want SV string expand, not str expand. Oh, we want str font. Well, we don't have a thing for it. It's mod dot star s is what we want. And then it's str expand. We need to make that a macro for format, but we don't have it right now, so it's fine. Source dot name. And then we can do source dot text. And to make it very obvious that it's the name, we'll put a comment at the start. So if all of our allocators and string shenanigans work, this is what we're looking at. Create our context, allocate a source file from a file on disk, which is test tokens.lie, but it's not hello, it's tokens.lie. And then we can print the file name plus the file's text, and then destroy the context. Destroying the context does not yet free that file, so we have a leak, but we don't really care about the leak, so it's fine. So let's go in here and knob. We have tons of errors. So unknown type name string. Okay. LCA string. So that's step one. What about now? We have unknown type name string view. Okay. LCA string view. LCA string. What about now? Use of undeclared identifier assert in lie context.c. Okay. Needs an assert. Then undeclared count and 114 a stir. So 114 here count is s.count in all of these places. And there it was. I mean, it tried. It tried really goddamn hard. We got the file name. That worked. This did not. We got only the tilde and maybe a space. So I did fseek stream to end 0. ftell. Let's fprintf count equals mod LLD new line count. What count are we getting back? Knob. Format specifies long, what argument is long? Yeah. Knob out. Count is only 2. Count of mod s. File path cster. What are we getting? Count of the thing. That's fair. Why is count only 2? Oh, because I did it fucking backwards. It's 0 to seek end and 0 to seek set. Let me just do knob and cool. There is our source file. So our allocator so far has not failed us. So let's go ahead and say git commits implement caching, loading, and caching of source files. Add everything. Do this. Alright, we're ahead by 2 commits. I'll get push, which should push to all 4 places at the same time. I have this mirrored on 4 different websites, just in case anybody wants it from a different website for some reason. We can go look at some. For one, it's on my personal Gitty instance at Nashura Git Nashura dev, whatever. Cool. It's in the description. I'm not going to be too in-depth about it. It is also at github.com, right here. It is also at codeberg.org, right there. And it is also at GitLab, right here. All of these should be in the description of the stream. You can go do whatever you want with any of it on any of those websites. It does sound like a jet engine. I need to figure out what it is. It's not that loud to me, but you know how microphones are. My laptop just decides that it wants to constantly throttle or whatever the fuck, and I don't know how to deal with that. I don't think there are any function keys on it for fan control, and I've never bothered to figure it out in software. Now that I'm trying to record stuff, I guess I have to. I'll figure it out before the next stream, hopefully, or we'll debug it next stream. Anyway, that is all we need, because it's what came with the laptop. I didn't bother to change the operating system on the laptop. I'm relatively new to Linux as a daily driver, so I just wanted to use whatever was easy. And I've got a Steam library, so I knew that it would come with decent drivers for whatever. I didn't want to research all my options for Linux distros and see which ones were fine for Proton and NVIDIA drivers and stuff like that. So I just left it as is. Simple as. So I know the title says that we wanted to start lexing, but my throat is starting to hurt. So I might have to take a break and come back either later today or sometime during the week to actually start lexing. Maybe I'll scaffold the lexer in the meantime. Do some testing on what we've already done to make sure it's not broken. Maybe set up the data structures and we can write the code without having to think about the data structures later. But I need to go take a break. So, yeah. Thanks for stopping in. Again, in the description is all the links to the source code, as well as a link to the Discord where I'll be sharing updates. We've already got some talks going on about various other things. My friend's making a game, another language dev trying to build a compiler. Zedrich over here helped with Visual Studio Code support for Laia so that you can see all the syntax highlighting for it. That's all him. So if you want to come over here, talk to some people, grow this Discord community, actually have some fun compiler dev, other dev, whatever the hell dev to talk about with whatever words, hard. Anything else, we've got other servers in here for channels in here for philosophy if you want to. Nobody wanted to talk about it. We can do music. I do music production. Other people might want to do that as well. Linguistics is fun. I have a language I want to build that I haven't worked on in a few months, but I mean, like, come talk about whatever the hell you want. It'll be fun, I swear. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Hey, everybody, have a good day.